All right, today we are deconstructing one of the most intense human beings on the entire planet, David Goggins. And this isn't just about being physically strong, no. This is about a man who literally rewired his own mind to go out and conquer what seems impossible. So let's crack open his operating system. To really get Goggins, you gotta start right here. This is not a story about some naturally gifted athlete. It's the story of a 300-pound exterminator who looked at himself in the mirror one day and just decided to become the one thing he was terrified of, one of the toughest men alive. And he didn't just become tough, he basically redefined the word. I mean, we're talking about running a 100-mile race with zero marathon training on broken feet, or completing the infamous Navy SEAL Hell Week, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then, just for fun, setting a world record for pull-ups, all while battling things like asthma. This is where his credibility comes from. It's real. So how on earth did he do it? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down his entire system. First, we'll look at his origin story as the unlikely athlete. Then we'll dive into his philosophy of fuel, not food. After that, we'll break down his absolutely brutal training, what he calls a war on weakness. And finally, we'll get to the core of it all, the mental rules he uses to forge that unbreakable mind. It all starts here, with a transformation that honestly sounds like something out of a movie. He started from a place of weakness, of obesity, and that's so crucial. Why? Because it means his methods aren't just for the genetically blessed, they're forged in fire. Okay, so the first pillar of that forging process is his diet. And for Goggins, let's be clear, food isn't about pleasure. It's not about comfort. It is purely strategic fuel for the war he wages on himself every single day. This quote right here, it says it all. Goggins doesn't count calories. He counts consequences. For him, every single thing he eats has a mission. It either builds him up for the battle ahead, or it makes him weaker. There's just no in between. So what does that fuel actually look like? Well, it's a high-protein, high-fat, and pretty low-carb diet. About 40% of what he eats is protein, obviously for muscle repair. Another 40% is healthy fats, which are great for hormone function and that long, sustained energy. And then the last 20% comes from complex carbs to power his insane output. And this chart illustrates his choices perfectly. On one side, you have his staples: oatmeal for that slow-burn energy, egg whites for pure protein, lean chicken, nutrient-packed spinach, and salmon full of those anti-inflammatory omega-3s. And on the other side, the stuff he literally calls poison: sugar that causes inflammation, fried foods that just clog up the system, and processed carbs that just lead to an energy crash. If it doesn't serve the mission, it's gone. So, with the body fueled, we finally get to the fire: his training. Goggins doesn't just exercise. Nope. He wages a 7-day-a-week war against weakness, building armor for both his body and his mind. Before we even look at the weekly plan, you need to understand the goal of all this madness. It's this number: 100. That's how many miles Goggins ran in a single race with no real training for it on broken feet. His entire system is designed to create that level of impossible endurance. And here it is, the plan that builds that capacity. And man, it is just relentless. Monday is all about upper body endurance. Tuesday, a long run and core work. Wednesday is pure body weight punishment. Thursday is high-intensity hell. Friday is just raw, functional strength. Saturday, more cardio. And Sunday, well, Sunday is his so-called rest day. And about that rest day, his idea of recovery is totally different from ours. For him, it's a 4-mile ruck with a weighted vest. See, he believes that movement, not just sitting still, is what actually helps you recover. In his world, there are no real days off. But all of this, the diet, the training, it's all powered by one thing: his mindset. This is the engine. You can copy the meals, you can try the workouts, but if you don't have these mental rules, you'll break. This is how he makes the impossible possible. He operates on 5 core principles. And this isn't some abstract philosophy. It's a practical toolkit for mental warfare. So let's open it up. Rule number 1 is so simple, but it is profound. Do something that sucks every single day. Not when you feel like it. No, you do it specifically when you don't feel like it. A cold shower, a run in the freezing rain, that one extra set of pull-ups. The point isn't the activity itself. The point is to intentionally suffer to build a tolerance for hardship. Next is the accountability mirror. Goggins confronts the ugly truth head-on. He literally writes down his insecurities, his failures, and his biggest goals on sticky notes, and he slaps them on his mirror. So every single morning, he's forced to look at the reality of who he is and what he needs to work on. There are no filters, no excuses. Rule 3. Callous the mind. The concept here is brilliant. Just like your hands develop calluses from lifting heavy weights, your mind develops its own kind of armor from enduring pain and hardship. Every single moment of intentional suffering adds another protective layer. And pushing through that pain leads to his most famous concept of all, the 40% rule. Goggins is convinced that when your mind is screaming at you to quit, when you think you're totally done, you're really only at about 40% of your true capability. That voice in your head is a liar. And on the other side of that pain is a massive 60% reserve of untapped potential, just waiting for you to go get it. So how do you access that other 60%? It's not with motivation. Motivation is just hype. It's an emotion. It comes and goes. Discipline. Discipline is a habit. Discipline is what drags you out of bed when it's cold and dark, long after the initial excitement has faded. It's the system that runs when your feelings have already given up. And finally, we get to the philosophy that kind of governs everything else. Be uncommon among the uncommon. See, for Goggins, it's not enough to be the tough guy in a world full of comfort. His goal is to be the hardest person, even in a room full of other elite operators and athletes. He starts where everybody else stops. Which leaves all of us with a final, pretty challenging question. Goggins isn't a superhero. He just made a choice to never stop pushing. So the real question isn't whether you can be him. It's what happens when you decide to stop chasing what's comfortable and start exploring the absolute outer edge of your own potential.